Good morning, everybody. Michael Bacher here from One on Duty Gaming and App Trigger. Today we're talking with Mr. Alberto Belli, head of Gamera Interactive and creator of Alaloth Champions of the Four Kingdoms. It's currently in early access now. Going to talk a little bit about the game. And Mr. Belli, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well. Just working as usual.
Now, how would you describe Alaloth Champions of the Four Kingdoms to someone that's just coming into the game new for the first time?
We used to say that it's like Baldur's Gate and Dark Souls that had a baby. So this is probably the most easy way, easier way to describe the game. So it's something in between an old school RPG and a modern action RPG. We are trying to stay in the middle, and that's it. So when you see the game for the first time, isometric look, it seems like, it reminds Baldur's Gate or Pillars of Eternity or Icewind Dale and these classics. But when it's up to kill stuff, you have to be good with the pet. So there is no tactical pause. It's real time action. So that's how the game works.
Right. Now, it's currently in early access now on PC, but it was released unusually in a fully playable state, which is not something you normally see for an early access game. What went into that decision to release it that way, opposed to, say, a fully playable game that's updated routinely through patches or hot fixes on the go?
Yeah, let's say that it's a very long story because of course we had all the issues that every dev team in the world had with the pandemic, but
Right.
we had to go through many other, let's say, unpredictable issues that were not directly related to developments on the way. So, as you say, the game is fully playable since day one. So it's not, let's say, the usual early access because we don't have any game-breaking bug or we didn't wipe any save since we launched the game. I mean, we have been forced to go with the early access because let's say that we had a publisher time ago. Let's say that I can comment about this, but at some point in 2022, we've got the publishing rights back, May of the last year. So we had to, let's say, squeeze PR and marketing activities in like 1 month and releasing the game in June because we were basically forced. So we were in a situation in which the game was almost ready, but not ready because we were missing polishing, we were missing localization and this kind of stuff. But we were even risking bankrupt at some point. So we have got publishing rights back. We, let's say, created an emergency plan. We had to squeeze all the stuff that usually is done in 1 year, 2 years of marketing and PR. And we launched it in June. And luckily, now we are fine. So we have the chance to plan the next steps, and that's why the game is basically a full game, but we are still in early access because we would like to take all the time that we didn't have to at the very end after all this struggle to deliver what we had in mind originally. So we'll keep the game in early access to add more languages, to do polishing, to do all this kind of stuff. But I mean, it has been our decision, but many different ways we've been forced to do things like this. But don't think about the past. We are happy right now. So the game has been delivered in a very good way at the end, and the players are happy. We are happy because we have got some validation because we have always pitched this game in between all the new, and probably it's way easier to play Alaloth instead of explaining how it works. And we're happy because the people is actually saying that it is exactly how we had the game in mind since the very beginning. So the people recognize that the game is in between all the new, and that's great.
Surprisingly, I haven't really. I'm a fan of role-playing games. I haven't really seen a game set up the way Alaloth has been before, where there's so many different unique features that you don't usually see blended together with the Souls-like physics-based combat in the isometric environment, with
Yeah.
a separate competitive mode and drop-in, drop-out co-op, and the environment. That's actually my favorite thing about the game is how beautifully the game is animated with the lore. And usually when you have different types of things from different genres like that mixed together, something usually tends to give where it stands out. It doesn't really jive. And that's not the case here. Everything blends together really well. Um, of all those things, what was the hardest to blend the way you wanted it to be in the game, seeing as those features don't usually go together in games the way it's set up?
I think that the first thing the artist has been convincing the team that this kind of stuff could work properly. So first of all, we had to convince our designers because every single dev team in the world usually pitches a game that is going to revolution the industry, something new,
Right.
something unique, something new. We started with a very clear idea of not reinventing the wheel, but trying to mix all this stuff the proper way. So yeah, the hardest part of the job was initially pitching the game to our team before pitching to others,
Okay.
because it's something very very hard to work on. But at some point, we found a way. At some point, something clicks and it works. So we had a long time with things not working properly. Then we started playtesting with people at events here and there, mock reviews with press and stuff like that. And we said, okay, it could work, and then it worked. I think that's is something that probably it's a game that you love or you hate. There is nothing in between. There is no midway. So the people that loves the game really like all this kind of mixture. The people that is looking for a classic RPG or is looking for Diablo is not liking it because it's not a classic RPG
Right.
nor Diablo. So that's the point. And this is the hardest thing to pitch and to explain because yes, it's in between. So our strength is even our, the most difficult thing to explain to people. It's about expectation. This is in between. It's not a classic RPG. It's not Diablo. It's a mix of this stuff.
Now, I saw in the most recent winter update on the Steam listing said that there's coming is going to be a couple more campaigns and some maps outside of the main area of the map. Now, again, that sounds more like almost a new feature being added because something like that sounds like and how MMOs are usually upgraded. Say like with Warcraft where
Yeah.
they release new expansions. Is that the same type of way you're going to be going about it? And how is that going to impact the main area of the game in the main campaign?
So let's say that the game is completely modular. So when we started working, we took the game to be modular the way we can add stuff on top, both features or just new areas and stuff like that. The point is that we are very right now our pipeline is working pretty good. So we are very fast in delivering the things that are already in place. Of course, we have a lot of ideas that we would like to implement with the game out. A lot of publishers are actually asking to jump in and bring the game on consoles, asking for features. So, for example, there are a few publishers asking to turn the game into an online game. So, let's say that we were ready for all of this because the game right now is huge. I don't even know how we did all this kind of stuff all together. We just in 10, 15 people. So the game is huge. And it's actually can work like the foundation for anything else because it's possible to add any kind of content on top of the game, which is 100 hours contents right now. So we can add some multiplayer features. We can add new single player campaigns. Right now we are just testing, and we started with the winter update. We are testing new areas because we are using these new small areas to test different flows, different from the main campaign. Because right now with the main campaign, you basically have to claim fighting areas, try to get these artifacts that you need to enter the end game and kill Alaloth. And so we are bound in some way to this mechanism of claiming fighting areas. So we have to work on this, but slightly changing the flow. So we are testing with these small areas a new way to use these fights. So, for example, we are working on, let's say, sieges, larger scale battles, stuff like that. And again, we are very open to any kind of option right now because we are literally in the middle of not hundreds but dozens of discussions with many different entities asking for this or that. And what I can say is that right now the latest big change we did in the game is stack related because we just updated Unity, the latest version of the engine, because it was something that we had to do at some point to port the game on consoles in the future. So right now we have the chance to use some new tools that were not available because we launched the game using an old version of Unity that was very stable, but it was from 19. So let's say that right now we are ready to understand what's going on in the next months, because the early access is supposed to end during the summer, but no rushes for us. So we are just taking game to understand which is the best solution, both for the game, but even, let's say, bits related for the company, because Diablo is coming out during the summer, Baldur's Gate is coming out during the summer. A lot of stuff is happening during the summer, and we spent so much time dealing with all these issues that were not directly related to the development that right now we want absolutely avoid to. We would like to avoid any kind of rushes, because we don't need to rush right now. We have the chance to plan stuff wisely, to talk with people, trying to understand which is the best option. So let's see what's happened. Let's say that we are going to release a new huge update in a month or so, including dragons and some other cool stuff. Let's say in April we are going to start our world tour with the game, so we are attending a lot of events in the US and Europe, and then since April on we are trying to focus on what's coming next. That's the idea.
One of the features I saw that was it's not used a lot. I think I've only seen it like once or twice before. Is the active real time map, where normally you have to say go see such and such NPC. They have a side quest for you, and they're just standing there with the exclamation point over their head. Alaloth doesn't do that. You see the icon of the character moving through the map. And you might encounter an enemy in one spot, and another player may encounter them in a completely different area, depending on when and where you locate them. Is there anything that goes along with the pre-written aspects of the game that, say, a player may miss depending on which one of the 4 races they choose, depending on when and where they locate an enemy, and how they're interacted with depending on which race they're playing with?
Yeah, that's one of the pillars of the whole game, because we used to describe the game word-centered more than player-centered, because there is a thing that I don't like in RPGs. RPGs, of course, is my favorite genres, but I don't like the idea of you are in a hurry because the evil is going to destroy the world, but in the meantime you can spend 300 hours playing dice in the tavern.
Right.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So we try to let's say to fake this sense of hurry, and it works in a good way, because at the very end, with the time passing, Alaloth become stronger, and this is shown to the player the way dialogue changes, spawns on the map changes, and stuff like that. But the difficulty is not changing. So you have the perception that the world is not waiting for you, but it is. So you have not to rush to enjoy the game. And as you said, a lot of stuff is changing according to with the calendar. So you can find NPCs or quest givers in a certain location that are moving around, or that are popping just in a specific moment during the year or during a specific event. And this is the same for the quest. So there is a lot of people that is saying, oh, there are no branching dialogues, so there are no real choices. Let's say that our quests are very straightforward, but these quests are bound to the calendar, because yes, we have just a few quests that have different epilogues, let's say, but depending on the quest you do or you are going to avoid, you're going to, or even depending from your alignment, for example, you're going to unlock different sets of quests and quest givers and non-playable characters. So that's why we describe the game word-centered more than player-centered, because you don't sometimes, and that's why I say that it's way more easy to play the game instead of explaining it, because yes, you are going to lose some contents if you do or you don't some of the things that you can do in the game. And that's why it is even replayable, because if you play the game with a different race every time, you get different quests, you get different dialogues. If you enter, the human throne room with a dwarf, with an elf is not the same. So the king is reacting a different way. So yeah, it's cool because it's even replayable because you are playing the same adventure but with a different point of view, let's say. And this is another thing that I think is very cool.
The combat, and I think you touched on it earlier, where the combat in the game is different. Not so much for where's the physics based part of it as well, but also the weapon durability aspect, which is not something one of the other features that you don't usually see blended with everything, but it still works now. But early on, it can be difficult because the weapons break. While you're halfway through killing, say, 5 out of 10 orcs or whatever, maybe you have to come back. You might not have the gold to repair it, or you die making your way back. But as time goes on, it actually becomes easier. The name of the spell escapes me, but the vampiric one actually really helped,
touch.
where
vampiric touch.
half your damage comes back over like 13 seconds as health, and that's almost a godsend. I found that. I was like, oh, thank God, because I was dying too much, especially trying to get back. And there is that unique blend where I like that combat, but you have people that like that setup, but might find it too difficult at the beginning and might not want to wait, until it gets easier as it goes. Is there any?
Yeah, we are at work on this right now because we have to slightly reduce the difficulty at the beginning, increasing the end game difficulty. That's exactly what we are working on right now.
Okay.
Let's say that it's a painful process because we have something like 1,000 items in game, and every time you touch a number in this huge Excel file, you have to to check all the influences that this number,
I can imagine, right?
just a small number on everything else. But this is why basically we are in early access. So this is the polishing phase, and I have to say that our players are really helping us. There is a wonderful community on our Discord server and on Steam, and they are helping us with this. And I even have to say that probably our team is one of the most active dev team on Steam, because we try to answer every single review, every single topic, every single private message. We answer to everyone basically, and we even included a lot of features that were not in the game originally that our players asked for on our Discord server. So we are very happy of the relationship that we are building with this player base, because they are basically the fuel for our engine. So
right, of course,
it's very cool.
One last thing as far as the setup goes. I noticed several times when, not several times, well, I died more than several times, but oftentimes when I would die, when I would respawn to being one of the game's temples, but farther away than I expected to be. And, of course, early on, I'd die trying to get back just to where I was, just because my character wasn't good enough yet. Is there any plans to make maybe, like, say, the respawns a little bit closer to where you die, or is that going to be the setup as it goes?
We already put in shrines, because at the very beginning we just had the sanctuaries, so the huge places with the huge statue that are basically the default respawn point when you die. But you can find all around the world small shrines, but you have to visit these shrines to actually unlock these shrines and use these shrines to respawn. So if you have one of the shrines unlocked, when you die, you're actually respawned in the closer area and not in the sanctuary. So when you just have the sanctuary, or when you didn't unlock any of these shrines, you are respawned in the sanctuary. But if you unlock one of the shrines, you are respawned there. So there are 4 per areas at the moment, so you have 5 different respawn zones actually. But yes, we can even add. We are adding new stuff with the new areas that we're putting in.
Now, originally you said when the game launched back in June that it was intended for it to be in early access for around a year, which would be most likely around this June.
Yep.
Based on that, 2 things. One, is that still your timeline? And one is, when that does come out of early access in full, is that going to be when the game releases on consoles as well? Because the game originally was optimized for controller, which would save time to release on consoles. Now, are you still looking for console release and full release around that time, or do you have a date on that yet, or not sure?
As I said before, we are talking with many different entities, let's say, now, because many different publishers would like to support the game on consoles. But we are at the moment we are focused on the PC SKU, of course. We are able to support the game on consoles on our own, so we don't need the publisher. But it's really about money. It's really about resources that we can have, the help that we can get from a publisher. So it would be nice to release the game in full on PC and on consoles, but it really depends on how we are going to puzzle all this kind of business related stuff with these companies we are talking with, because someone is asking for a release at the same time, someone else is trying to push us to the next year, adding new features like, I don't know, some online features, battlegrounds, stuff like that.
Right.
So it really depends. It really depends on who is the one that is partnering with us in the next months, and if we like the idea to partner with someone again. So that, which is important, because as I said, no rushes. So focus for us at the moment is on PC. We are doing some console related work to be ready for any kind of scenario. Right now we are just sticking with the original plan, so summer more or less for the PC version. It could change depending on other releases, business related stuff, and then at some point I think that in the next months we are going to understand what's going on with the consoles. Our idea, of course, is to bring the game on consoles too. It was announced for consoles, so it's not a surprise. We are talking with Microsoft for the Game Pass option. So let's see what happens.
Great options. I mean, everyone, the exposure that Game Pass brings is usually a huge hit for every game that lands on it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, I'm loving the game so far. I really like the setup. My favorite thing is how it blends well. We recommend it here at App Trigger and everything to everybody, and we're excited to see what's going to come. But I appreciate everything. Looking forward to hear all the news, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.